like, this is very well written, and this brings out like a combination of like tech history with your personal history. And I have to say, let me just interject here, that just to see what happened, I asked ChatGPT, what questions would Terry Gross ask Wahini Vara in a Fresh Air interview? And it was very flattering to me. It praised me as a good interviewer with like sensitivity and deep questions. So, just another example that it can be very flattering. But so you ask it about how it seemed programmed to flatter and to sound empathetic and kind, and it responded, the way I communicate is designed to foster trust and confidence in my responses, which can be both helpful and potentially misleading. And I thought, that's so true. It can be helpful and misleading. And I thought, maybe the chatbot is actually very transparent.
So OpenAI has said that ChatGPT and its other products are designed to foster trust, to appear helpful. So it says those things explicitly. And right, by saying, this is how I function, I guess ChatGPT is being as transparent as it can be. I don't know that I would trust it to always be as transparent as that, or even to know how to be transparent, right? Because it's just a machine that's generating words. It has no way of definitively always generating material that's even accurate, right? And so I have fairly low confidence that that transparency is always going to be there. I am curious though about what you thought of the questions that it produced, whether any of them were like at all interesting to you.
They were kind of pretty broad general questions. They all touched on themes in your book.
Yeah.
They were all subjects I wanted to explore, but they were so like broad in nature that there was no personality. I'm not saying like, well, look at my personality, but there was no point of view, and there was no follow-up. It was just like a list of questions, but there was no follow-up to try to go deeper after the answer. And I know it wouldn't have heard your answer, but still, when I prepare an interview, like one question leads to the next question to go deeper into that answer, and there was nothing like that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, I think, about that, and what I experienced too using ChatGPT in the context that I did, is that there's something fundamental about human communication, about like two people talking to each other, or the fact that right now, for example, you and I are talking to each other, but I imagine you always also have an awareness of the fact that eventually millions of other people will hear the same conversation. And so both you and I are keeping in mind like this kind of complex idea about who we're communicating to, what the communication is for, and like our own backgrounds and experiences and ways of communicating come into it. And a chatbot is like not doing any of that. It seems like it is, because the words it produces sound kind of like the language humans use, but it's not using language in any way that's remotely like how we do.